One of the most infuriating issues for a small or medium business owner is when your team don't do what they said they were going to do. So a task or a project is agreed upon, you leave them to it for a few weeks, maybe even months. Come back to check on it and it's like that initial conversation never happened. Either the project hasn't progressed or it hasn't been done to the standards that you believed were agreed to. This leaves you feeling frustrated and it leaves you feeling tied to your business because you feel like you can't step away from your team, because if you do, things stop progressing, and the only way that growth happens is if you're there pushing people. What I'm going to show you today is how to completely eradicate this issue in your business with a simple 5-step model. And it's easy to integrate. You can literally take notes as we're going through the video and integrate it into your business and into your processes before the video is finished. What I've done to come up with this model is spent the last 5 years working with small, medium and large businesses and seen the same issues consistently. And then I've applied my mindset and learnings from serving in the military, but also serving alongside the special forces and seeing the best of the best in leadership and team productivity. So I've taken those, looked at the issues in the civilian world and turned them into a model that you can implement into your business today. So grab yourself a pen and paper. I want you to follow this process with me, and by the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly how to stop this issue ever happening in your business again. Okay, so the way that we're gonna solve this problem is through an acronym. Now, I'm ex-military, and in the military, we love acronyms because they make it easy to remember stuff. And the acronym that we're gonna use is something called MATCH. M-A-T-C-H. And what I want you to do as a business owner or leader is embed this acronym in the top of your mind so that you've always got it there to come back to and don't forget it. Right, so I want you to make this a priority as a leader to remember the MATCH method. And what we're going to do is we can use this both proactively and reactively, okay? So proactively, before we're trying to get our teams to do something, we want to work through this model. And all of our clients that I work with, I always come back to this if we're struggling to get buy-in or people aren't doing what we need them to do. I'm like, let's just work through the MATCH model, and it works a treat, okay? So we can either proactively use it before asking people to do something, or we can reactively use it if we're struggling to get our teams to do what they said they were going to do. Okay, so all we do is we work through it, and the great thing about the MATCH method is we can work through it sequentially in the right order. So the first thing that we ask ourselves when we're trying to motivate teams to do something, or we're asking why they're not motivated, is, are they motivated, right? So if you've got a team that's agreeing to do something, your leadership team or your lower team in your business, they're agreeing to do something, but they're not following through, the first question we need to ask is, are they motivated to do this? And the best way to find out the answer to this is to go and ask them. And obviously you need them to be comfortable with you. If they're not, then that's an issue that you need to work on culturally. But we need to ask them, are you motivated to do this thing? Do you want to do this thing? If not, why not? Now there's lots of different ways that we can increase motivation, right? There's ways that we can get our teams more bought into what we're doing. One of the easiest ways that business owners overlook is we can involve them. So there's this famous, well, it's not that famous actually, but there's this well-known saying that people hate having change done to them, but they love driving change. Now that's really important for you as a business owner to understand, because it means if you're just telling your team constantly to do stuff but not involving them in the process, they're going to be really resistant to doing that because they feel like they're not appreciated, like their input wasn't sought. And this is especially prevalent with a leadership team. So one of the most powerful things you can do as a business owner to get your team, especially your leadership team, more bought into what you want them to do is actually involve them in the planning process. And this achieves two things. It takes the pressure off you as the owner to come up with all the ideas yourself, and it makes them feel involved, which makes them more bought in. Another thing is incentivize, right? Okay, so are your team incentivized to do this thing? There's a client of ours that we're doing some work with, and they were trying to get their team to sell a thing, to sell a new service, right? And they were struggling. And we asked them initially, like, are you motivated? Do you want to sell this thing? And we put a bonus structure in place. And they said yes, but they weren't selling it. And when we dug into it deeper, and actually by listening to information that was coming through the grapevine, what we learned was that although they did get bonus to sell this thing, the way in which the bonus was structured actually meant that if they sold the other service, which kind of impacted or contrasted with the other, I know what I'm trying to say, you know, if they sold the other service, it basically stopped them selling the one we wanted them to sell. They got less bonus but quicker. and they wanted that because they saw that in their account quicker. So we had to look at that and address that because, like I said, if they're not motivated, they're not going to do it. So with teams, often motivation is the issue, but with your leadership teams, a lot of the time they will be motivated, but it's often a case of just involving them more in the process. So if you are in the mindset of, I should just tell my leadership team what to do and they should get on with it, you're going to be in a constant uphill battle, because that's not how human psychology works, okay? And no matter how great your team are, they will resist it on a subconscious level because they don't feel like they're being appreciated or involved in the process. What we recommend is to do one day every quarter with your leadership team, planning for the next quarter. And in that one day, you can get enough involvement from your team that they're bought into the process. So are they motivated, right? That's the first question we need to ask ourselves. If they're not motivated, you're never going to get them to do the thing that they said they were going to do, even if they've agreed to it, right? So you've got to make sure they're motivated. Right, the next thing then, so let's say they are motivated, and this is the great thing because we can work through it sequentially. Let's say that the team are motivated, right? They are motivated to do the thing that they said they were going to do. The next question we need to ask ourselves is, have they got the ability, okay? So they might be motivated, but they might not actually know how to do the thing that they said they were going to do. So this is an obvious solution to this, right? We need to either give them some training, get them some support. Often we can outsource or find systems and software and training online, or we need to look at if it's the right role for them. For example, if I've got somebody in marketing or social media and I want them to increase our following or increase sales or increase leads, whatever it might be, sales, appointments, and they're not doing that, they might not have the ability, right? So then the question becomes, okay, you haven't got the ability to do that. We need to either get you up to standard, or we need to make a decision about the fact that you haven't got the ability that we need you to have. Okay, often if you've got the right cultural fit, you just need to get that person up to standard. But yeah, we've got to make sure that they know what they're doing. And remember, as a business owner or business leader, people aren't going to be very open about this because of fear, right? We're fearful that we're going to lose our jobs or whatever it might be. So somebody might not be very open about admitting the fact that they haven't got the ability to do the thing that they said they were going to do. This is where my previous video on OKRs, or 5 systems to get your teams to do what you need them to do, that's where we talked about OKRs in that video. I'll link it in the comments. That's where this forces that issue. Like if people don't know what to do, they haven't got the ability, we need the numbers to show that. We don't want it to hide away, because obviously our prerogative is not to show that. Okay, so let's say your team are motivated to do what you need them to do and they have got the ability. Now why are they not doing what you need them to do? And this is a big one that I think us owners are a nightmare at truly understanding, and that is time, okay? Have they actually got the time to do what they said they were going to do? And I really think it's important for you as a leader to understand this. Your team are motivated to say yes for a variety of reasons. Number one, it feels good. Number two, it gives us a little dopamine hit when we say yes. Number three, we don't like saying no. So especially your leadership team and new managers will tend to say yes to things even if they haven't got the time. And another reason for this is new leaders, managers are typically terrible at understanding what their capacity is. And then if we combine that with the fact that owners are, like us, are typically massively overambitious and we massively underestimate how long things are going to take and how much work they're going to take, it creates this lose-lose situation where we're saying yes to things that are unrealistic in the time that we've got available to us. So if your team are motivated and they have got the ability but they're not getting it done, one of the realities might be that they just don't have the time. And we need your teams to have a really good understanding of their capacity. And hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most common issues that are holding businesses and teams back, especially small and medium businesses, is people don't understand their capacity and they're overcommitting. 99% of the businesses that I've ever worked with don't have a working hard issue. They have a trying to work on too many things issue. They have a prioritization issue. So if you don't have a system in place for people to try and figure out what their capacity is and be clear on what projects they're working on and what's expected of them, they're going to overcommit. And if they overcommit, they're not going to get the stuff done that they said they were going to do, which is going to frustrate you. And the things that they are focusing on are all going to be done to half of the standard of what they should be. So it's really important that we understand people's capacity. And one of the things that you can do as a business owner to ensure this is to put an OKR system in place and a tracker in place. Again, I'll link that other video where I go through that in detail, because that forces us to actually write down like what we're prioritizing and what we're focusing on, so we actually look at it. And again, most teams don't spend the time on this. We're just busy fools. We're just busy being reactive and doing. We're not spending the time to put our projects into a tracker. We're not spending the time to be clear on our objectives and our key results and our scorecards in the business. And what that leads to is we don't really know what we're committed to, so we just say yes to everything, and when you say yes to everything, nothing is important. So you've got to make sure that you've got systems in place so that people understand their capacity. And another easy thing that you can do as a business owner or leader is ask the question, have you got the time to do this? What are your other priorities at the moment? Is you taking this thing on going to have an impact on another priority? And then we can make the decision about what's important. Big thing, massive, massive thing that's going to take your business from being and your team from being owner dependent to being team and system led is shifting from what we call a culture of reactivity, okay, which is where the culture that most businesses get off the ground in. It's you get your business off the ground by being reactive. That's exactly how it works. And you grow your team and you get to a certain point of success by being reactive. Okay, you can't start with the perfect plan. Maybe if you're a super experienced entrepreneur who knows the market and has got years and years of experience, you might be able to just have this perfect plan and make the business follow that plan. But the reality is most businesses are reactive. We're figuring out what's working, we're reacting to the market, and we're finding traction. We have to shift from a culture of reactivity to a culture of being proactive. Okay, and what this basically means is slowing down, setting goals, figuring out what the priorities are, understanding our capacity. It's slowing down to speed up, and this is a big shift that we have to go through. So you're probably, if you're a small or medium business owner with around 5 to 50 employees, you probably lean more towards reactivity than proactivity. You're probably listening to things like this where I'm saying like understanding capacity, planning goals, and thinking, oh, I don't know if we've got the time to do that. That is the clear insight for you to understand that that's exactly what you need to be doing, right? There's a Buddhist saying that if you don't have time, you should meditate for an hour a day. If you don't, apart from the days where you don't have time, you should meditate for 2 hours. Now, of course, that's a bit extreme, but it's kind of true to what we're talking about with businesses, right? You should spend time planning. Apart from when you feel like you haven't got the time to do that, you should probably be spending more time planning to actually feel like you've got the time. Otherwise, you're just going to stay stuck chasing your tail. Right then, so a team are motivated to do what they said they were going to do. They've got the ability to do what they said they were going to do. They've got the time to do what they said they were going to do. So why, if they've got those three things in place, might they not get it done? And this is a massive one to understand, right? They might not have the clarity, right? And this, I'm going to put a star by this, is a massive one for business owners to understand. Your employees aren't you. And your employees don't think like you. And if they did think like you, they probably have their own businesses, right? So the mindset of a business owner is very different to the mindset of an employee, okay? That's vitally important for us to understand, because what happens in most businesses is an owner has an idea of what they want in their mind, right? So you've got an idea of, when you say the thing to the team, you've got an idea of what you think the outcome of this is. Now they've got another idea and it's probably very different. So what happens is they come away from a conversation with you, you're like, yeah, they've got that. They're like, I think I know what they meant. And then you come back together a few weeks or months later and you're like, what the hell's that? And they're like, well, that's what we said. And you're like, no, that's not what I meant. And then we have this constant kind of friction. So we've got to get really good at being clear on what the outcomes are, right? And one of the easiest ways to do this is with something called key results. And again, I'll link that other video. Key results, right? And basically what we do is we have to do this to be good business owners, right? To be efficient business owners and leaders. We have to become pros at measuring outcomes, okay? And making sure that any project we commit to or that our teams commit to with us has measurable results attached to it. So instead of just going, yeah, okay, that's the project, go and get on with it, what you need to get into the habit of saying is, how are we going to know it's successful as measured by, right? So if somebody said, right, we're going to uphaul the social media, really broad, right? So we said uphaul or make it better social media, right? Your duty from this day forwards, by relying on this model and going through and ticking them all off, is when you get to this section, you're like, okay, how do we know that's been successful? This part of the project that we're agreeing to over the next month, 3 months, year, whatever it might be. How are we measuring success? How would you measure success in an uphill of social media? Well, perhaps we want better engagement rates, we want more followers, we want more organic sales, right? And we just apply a number to that. Again, I've done a video breaking down the OKR method into some detail, which is this thing here, key results, which I'll share with you in the link below, and I'll put it as the end screen as well, so you can go and watch that one. But you have to get into the discipline of doing that. If you want to stop being frustrated with your team and you want to stop having this issue where things are agreed to and you go back to and they're not done, you have to make results measurable. If you only took one thing from this video, I hope you take all 5. If you just start doing that, the outcomes that your team get will be completely transformed, and the level of frustration that you have your team's not doing what you need them to do will almost eradicate itself. Because if you just get clear on results, it can't happen because we're crystal clear on what we need them to do. Now, if we've set results and they didn't hit them, it might come back to being an ability issue, it might come back to being the time issue, you know, but at least then we know what the limitation is, as opposed to it being you just didn't do what I needed you to do. So we've got to do that. And then the final piece, and this is the kind of the jewel in the crown, is to be held accountable. Now, accountable. Business owners are terrible at this. Okay, we do not like holding our teams accountable. Right? 2, 3, 4, 5 reasons why. The main reason is we don't want to feel like we're micromanaging them. We just trust them to get on with it. Okay, I'm going to tell you why that's a terrible idea in a moment. The other reason is we think that they think like us, as I've already mentioned, right? And because we're future-driven, growth-minded business owners, if we say we're going to do a thing, we'll go at it. If anything, our issue is we go at it too much and burn out, right? Your team are different. They're a different mindset to you, right? And reason 3, right, is that human psychology works against a lot of people, right? And business owners we're hardwired different to a lot of people, and we're happy to just jump into a thing and see if it works and be overly optimistic. Most people are very different to that. They're much more cautious. They like security. They like repetition. So when people say they're going to do a new thing, they might be excited initially because they like to say yes. But once that becomes a reality, right now I've got to make this project happen, the fear kicks in. Oh, what if I'm going to fail? What if I mess it up? What if I look bad? So what happens is all this fear kicks in, and if they don't feel like it's being checked up on, their subconscious response is to just drift back to the day-to-day and avoid this thing and hope it just disappears. So you combine that with you're not checking up on them because you don't want to micromanage them and you think they're like you and they're just going to get on with it. So you've got them that are subconsciously avoiding it, you are there leaving them to it, and this project or this task is slowly just disappearing in the middle. And then you come back a few weeks or a few months later and they're like, oh yeah, and they're going to make up a load of excuses. And then that leads to you being frustrated, right? So this is what happens in most teams. So the way that you fix this is you have to put in something to hold people accountable. Now you might be thinking, and here's another reason, owners hate managing. We hate managing people. It's not what we like doing. We like doing creativity, we like being innovative, we like doing growth and partnership stuff and being out there and networking. We hate repetition. Business owners, it's just the way we are, right? So you don't like holding them accountable either. And the good news is you don't need to, you just put a system in place, an accountability system. But I just want you to understand that if you put an accountability system in place, which by the way is just a weekly meeting with trackers, which again, I'll link that other video to. If you put that weekly meeting in place, a couple of things happen. The first one is they're held accountable, right? And the ideal solution here is that your leadership team do this, but you can replicate this in your team. If you have multiple teams, you can replicate it in those teams as well, right? So they start being held accountable because they know they've got a weekly meeting at a set time where they're going to go through these trackers, which has got all of this stuff captured in there, right? So they're like, okay, I'm being held accountable. I'm gonna look pretty bad if I come to this meeting and I haven't done this stuff. So there's that, which initially is going to be experienced as stress. So, oh, okay, I'm actually got to do this stuff, right? Which puts people out of their comfort zone. But what I want you to think about is if we're putting people out of their comfort zone and holding them accountable to doing the things that they're going to do, what's going to happen? Okay, well, the first thing is they're actually going to try and do this stuff, right? Are they going to achieve 100% of what they said they were going to try? No, and that's perfectly fine and acceptable. But they're going to try this stuff and they're going to get progress and success from doing this stuff. So we're forcing them out of their comfort zone and they're making progress. And even when they're messing stuff up or not making progress on it, they're learning, and because the system's there, they're being forced to figure out what's going wrong and make it better. So we're forcing people to grow. And what that does in the long term is boost people's confidence. Oh, by the way, it also grows your business, right? And takes the pressure off you, but it boosts people's confidence. And this is why I'm so passionate about sharing these systems and these insights, because from my time of working with like the best of the best, what I saw was they're not the best of the best because they're highly stressed and they've got this stringent, rigorous, disciplinarian, dictatorial system in place. They're actually enjoying the process, right? And most of the businesses and teams that are struggling is because they haven't got the right systems in place to bring out the best in everyone. And if you put the right systems in place, people get better results and they feel better about themselves, right? Owners can step out of the way because there's systems in place that are bringing the best out in people, so owners can focus on what they enjoy. Oh, and by the way, have a life. And the business benefits because our team are motivated, they're growing, they're focused on things they said they were going to focus on. The owners are free from all the operational firefighting and management, so they can focus on the stuff they're good at. Oh, and they're revitalized because you've actually got a life alongside your business. And of course, what that leads to is your business growing, but also your customers getting a better, more consistent experience. And that's why I'm so passionate about going on about this stuff all the time, because it's a win-win-win-win situation for you, your team, your business, and your clients. So when you put this accountability system in place, everybody wins, right? And there's no argument in my mind for not having this in place. Get people to be clear on what they said they were going to do, hold them accountable to doing it with a system. They will only grow. And if you do have a few people in your business that genuinely just can't be asked and are just there to kind of take and not give, they're going to self-remove themselves from the business. And all that, although that might give you a bit of a headache in the short term because you lose a few people, I guarantee it's going to be better for your business in the long run because you're going to replace those with people that are beneficial to your business. So we've got to hold people account, right? For their benefit, for the business's benefit, and for their own mental health. Doing this is a positive. I do get that some owners, especially if we're nice, like I'm nice, if we're nice, we can be resistant to this stuff because we're trying to keep the pressure off people and we don't want to stress them out. All you're doing is contributing to poor mental health by doing that, because yes, you're keeping the pressure off them in the short term, but what you're doing in the long term to medium term is not helping them develop in confidence and their self-esteem. So it's your duty to hold people accountable to what they said they were going to do. Right then, so recap. I want you to write this down. I want you to put it on the walls. I want you to ingrain it onto the inside of your mind, and you will never, ever, ever, ever have to worry about your team not doing what they said they were going to do ever again. Okay? So whenever we ask somebody to do something, or whenever where somebody's not doing what we wanted them to do, we're going to come back to the match method. We're going to work through it sequentially. We're going to ask ourselves and ask them, are you motivated to do this thing that I asked you to do? If not, why not? And the solutions are going to present themselves. Have you got the ability to do what we need you to do? And if we've got clear on what the results are, that should show itself. If not, what do we need to do to get you there? Or do we need to ask the question, are you the right person for the role? And what's the right thing to do in response to that? Okay, often in smaller and medium businesses, we're going to need to upskill people, right? But what we don't want to do is not put the pressure on them to upskill to cater to them. It's a business. We've got to make money. We've got to hit results, right? Okay, so have they got the ability? Have they got the time to do what they need to do, right? Have they got the time to allocate to this project? Are they clear on how long this project or task is going to take, and can they fit that into their diary? If the answer is yes, great. If the answer is not, what needs to move, or is this less of a priority than something else? Okay, so we need to get into the mindset of having these conversations. Are they and we as business owners crystal clear on what success looks like in this task or this project? How are we measuring the results? And if we feel like it's hard to measure results, we're going to stick at it until we get that clarity. Otherwise, there's room for ambiguity. You're going to be frustrated. They're going to be frustrated. Time is going to be wasted. So the time that you spend on this will pay for itself 10 to 100 times over by getting clear, right? Do not get into the habit of not doing this. It will bite you on the arse and your team. And then finally, we know they're motivated. We know they've got the ability. We know they've got the time. We're crystal clear on what's expected of them. Now we're going to make sure that they're being held accountable, probably through a weekly meeting if it's with the leadership team, or through a tracker if it's somebody that's not in the leadership team. Do those 5 things and you will never deal with the most common frustration that business owners have, which is your team not doing what you need them to do. And you're going to create a culture where what needs to be done gets done without it all being reliant on you, which is good for your team, good for your business, good for you, and good for your clients. If you found this video useful, please do give it a like, give us a subscribe to the channel. If you'd like more content like this, or you've got stuff that you'd like us to help you with, please do put that in the comments or connect with me on LinkedIn and send it to me as a DM. I've mentioned another video quite a few times throughout this one, so I'm going to link that now in the end screen. This isn't BS. This is practical down to earth stuff that works. One of our clients is just taking a 90-day backpacking holiday. 2 of our clients have sold their businesses. Pretty much all of our clients reduce the time they spend managing their teams to 1 day a week or less within 14 weeks. I'm not just trying to sell my services or big myself up. I'm trying to create a scenario for you where your business is something that contributes to your life and your team and business work for you, not the other way around. You probably just need to put some systems in place if you're struggling to do that. Watch that next video if you haven't watched it already, and there's a few links down below about how you can connect with us to keep up to date with the stuff that we're putting out. And also we've got some free courses, one system actually that'll be fantastically supportive towards this, which is our employee motivation on automation system. You can have that for free. I think it's incredible that we're giving it away, but I know that a percentage of you that use that will like the stuff so much and get so many results from that you will then have time and surplus cash to come and work with us. So it's a no-brainer to me. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.